Hi, and welcome to the Pride Road Architects podcast. I'm Lisa Raynes, and each episode I'll talk to people who interest me in the world of architecture and business. So join me and fellow lions and lionesses as we explore architecture in the den. So, hi everyone, and welcome to Architecture in the Den. And today we're back over in the States again, talking to Shannon Hughes. So, hi Shannon, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Sure. Yes, I am in the States. I'm in the Bay Area in San Francisco. So I live just north of the city and in California. And yeah, my name is Shannon Hughes, and I have a practice called Enlivened Studios. And what we do is we work with architecture firms, design firms to support teams in developing what I call a people-first culture. So how do we establish the values and the blueprint of the culture for kind of what needs to stay and what might need to shift, so people feel like they belong, so everyone is resilient, and we really understand in the organization what that shared heartbeat is, so that people stay and do good work for long periods of time. And your facial expressions are cracking me up.
I'm just like, there's lots of words in there that I don't quite. Right, okay, so maybe there's a UK cultural difference. So first of all, you guys talk about firms, don't you? Whereas over in the UK, we talk about practices or studios.
Yes. Well, I'd say we use those. We also say studio, firm, practice. Yes. I think just depending on who you're talking to, those are kind of interchangeable, at least in my experience. I can't speak for everyone.
And so you're working with architects and other designers as well?
Yeah. I've been doing this work for a while for startups as well as large organizations. I've done work with LinkedIn and some other larger organizations. I do work for nonprofits. So yeah, but architecture is in that portfolio of folks that I'm supporting right now.
Cool. So what
Yeah.
sort of services would you generally offer to a startup?
About the same. It's the same methodology, the same way of thinking. But it just depends on what the objectives are of the client. So generally in both the architecture world and in the startup world, I tend to work with teams or companies, depending on the size of those teams, that are kind of looking around and going, okay, here we are. We have a viable product. We have market presence. We have movement, progress. We have a mission. We understand what we're all doing here. And we're kind of looking to scale, right? It doesn't necessarily mean we're looking to scale to the size of, Google or Apple, but scale could be moving the needle from 11 employees to 15 employees. So working with those kind of smaller, more agile teams who are really looking around and recognizing that change is imminent, and it's time to start kind of taking care of people and determining what that means in terms of the company culture. So that same methodology and how I would service and support those folks will be the same for startups or architects.
So is that like HR stuff?
Yeah, kind of. I think these days, God, HR folks are being asked to do 50 times more than they used to have to do, right? They're not only responsible for the policies and processes anymore. Now it's also employee well-being and making sure that people are resilient and happy and that retention numbers are staying intact. So this people part can definitely be part of that HR world. It's very related to human resources and also tangentially related, because sometimes there's a defining line between what HR folks do and what the people operations folks might do, but both of those capabilities are very much about people. Yes.
So you're sort of people operations. So
Yeah.
what sort of thing, what does that mean on what are you working on this week? What's on your desk?
Yeah, great question.
I'm just trying to understand what you do.
Yeah. So just to get really tactical, I am working with an architecture firm right now in the States,
Right.
and they are about a 20 person practice.
Yeah.
So not all that big.
Yeah.
And but they are starting to scale, right? Since I've been working with them since 6 months ago, they've already added 3 people to their staff, and a couple people have left, right? So there's some change and some movement in terms of folks working at the practice. And when my first phase of supporting this firm or this practice, now I'm juggling all these terms.
Confused you. No, stick to firm. It's fine.
The first phase of coming into work with them was I orchestrated an all-day workshop. And what we did was, and the goal of that all-day workshop and the goal of the first phase of working with them, and we're on phase 3 by now, by the way, but phase 1 rather, was let's establish our company values. That work hadn't been done before. So we went in, we spent an all-day session talking about what we individually believe in, like what our own core values are. Lisa, you have your own core values. I have my own core values. Why do we get up in the morning and do the work we do? We did that as pre-work. And then we came into the room, we talked about our shared values. So your values are yours, mine are mine. What do we share? Where are the points of intersection and alignment? And out of that, we then did some additional work and some more intake, and we devised the 5 values that now are the foundation of how this company is going to continue to be. And we also...
So is it like a marketing activity? Is it inward facing or outward facing?
It's much more inward facing. I mean, there definitely there are marketing opportunities, absolutely. But really, I talk about values being integrated into every part of the employee life cycle. So from the moment, from awareness to recruitment to onboarding to training to retention efforts, and then all the way to offboarding, right? Those are all the different stages of the employee life cycle. So what does it feel like to live in integrity? Let's say integrity is one of the values. Well, how do we do that? What are the behaviors that are tied to that? And so what we did for this firm is we identified 5 values, which are essentially words, right? But who cares? What's the point? A word is a word. Everybody understands them differently. So what we did was we took it a step further, and we identified what are the 3 or 4 behaviors that we all agree really elevate what that value is. So if the value is trust, well, the 3 behaviors that we might all agree to are admitting when we make mistakes, celebrating mistakes. That might be a behavior that we all agree we're going to do, right? Another thing for establishing trust might be radical candor and open conversations. And so what we do is we tie those behaviors to the values, and then we really put those into every single part of the employee life cycle, so that it's those values are so deeply embedded for how we operate as a team here, that we're all speaking the same language, and we're really kind of tracking against those as we service our clients, go to market with a new enter into a new market like education or low-income housing or any of those. How do we kind of take all those values and the behaviors that we use and express those in our day-to-day behavior here at this company?
Okay, so I'm just because I'm come from a smaller practice mentality. So when I say smaller practice, talking micro.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we can take from that into the kind of almost sole practitioner type thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am also a solo practitioner, and I've done this work for myself.
Oh yeah.
To do some reflecting on what are my company's values? What is it, if I were to hire somebody tomorrow, what does it feel like to work here? Right. And I actually, I'm looking over here because to my left, because I've got it all written out. I wrote a culture manifesto, and it's And I used a few prompts to kind of get me on the road to writing it, but it's some words that really describe what it feels like to work here. So that if I were to hire you tomorrow, Lisa, I would say, this is what it means to work here. This is what it feels like. For example, mine says the culture of Enlivened Studios is vibrant and alive. There is music and fanfare. People put their feet up and their heads back with laughter because people here are funny and flavorful and fabulous. So it just gives you a vibe of who I am and how I run my work.
Oh, yeah. So would you go that out to Indeed or what is it, Job Monster?
Monster.
Would
Yeah.
you see that, put that on your job, or LinkedIn, looking for a blah, 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 blah.
I'd say, yeah. I mean, God, when's the last time you saw a job posting that actually like drew you in, right? They rarely have it.
Yeah.
They rarely have some narrative.
That's true. Yeah, kind of for me. I mean, I went down a kind of, I started my practice 12 years ago, and I kind of started thinking about growing into a large practice. So, you know, I think we had about had four part-timers at early doors, and we did have a cultural manifesto. You know, I kind of went down and I did that sort of stuff. I kind of wrote down kind of office rules, but it was that was sort of in air quotes, I just did for those people who are listening. And I kind of really embraced it, and it was really good fun. But at the end of the day, the business model changed significantly quite quickly. And instead of growing the practice to sort of like a medium-sized or SME or whatever you want to say, I decided to go down the franchising route.
Yeah.
So we kind of came back to a core of me. And then I went on a kind of using sort of subcontracting out work. So it was much more agile, much leaner. So I had lower overheads, much lower overheads. And it meant actually that my cash flow was worked as opposed to not, which is where I'd put myself, because I think when I set up in business, I hadn't had any sort of business training whatsoever. And so just learned by my own mistakes. And, you know, kind of really wanted to go in this people first direction, and then actually went, no, the numbers have got to work first.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we're now at 5 franchisees, which is amazing. But in head office, it's still just me. We tried recruiting. I had someone come in to help me on a program called Kickstarter. It was a government funded program, and that was really interesting and quite challenging as well. So it was a 6-month program, and it just took so much time to manage. It took my eye off the ball on kind of practice growth. So I kind of decided not to continue. Sorry, I thought I'd put my phone on flight mode. My phone's on flight mode, and still people have managed to contact me. It's just crazy. Oh God.
They're coming at you from all sides.
Yeah, well, it comes to the computer as well. So
I know. I know.
Yeah, so now, thinking about that, if I was to recruit, is interesting. I mean, for me, it's kind of working out. I mean, it's taken me quite a long time to work out an organogram of kind of what I do what I'm good at,
Mm-hmm.
what I need, where I can get help,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where I need help, and stuff I
Yeah.
don't know what to do.
Yeah. Hey, believe me, I'm in the same place right now. And I go back and forth about hiring a virtual assistant, somebody who might be able to help me take some of those things off my list they're not my zone of genius at all. They're like, I'm not good at them. They take too much time. They take me away from serving my clients. They take me away from business development. And yet you have to do them because that's part of the job of running a business, right? So sometimes you have to say, okay, let me look at my numbers and let me look at my budget, and maybe I can just take a small portion and allocate it towards some semblance of assistance. And that doesn't always have to break the bank, depending on where you're finding your support. And it's hard too, right? Because you own everything. So to let go and to trust somebody else to do components of your business is tricky. But to go back to two things that you just said that really that kind of resonated and wanted me to make mention is even as a solopreneur or a small business owner like yourself, who's obviously scaling just in different ways, right? You may not be scaling your own team right there in your office, but you've got clearly you're scaling to opening other doors and with your oversight and your strategy. So there's still great value in identifying, what your company culture is and what your employer brand is, or what your brand is, period. Because you still want, when those franchises open, you still want them to be opened in integrity with who you are and what you stand for.
We're really strong on our brand focus. We've got, it was so important when I first set the franchise up with the Pride Road, and we've got the branding guidelines, and it's just stood me in such good stead to have such a consistent, well thought out brand from the outset. It is really good, and we just have to, and we, we've kind of done a lot of this work, and then it's actually then reminding ourselves and revisiting it. And it's easy to forget what we've done.
Right. And what a great time. I mean, everybody waits till the end of the year to do stuff. And I'm not saying wait, but I am saying now is a great time to potentially bring your team together and have a chat about, and I'm actually doing this with some organizations, I'm calling them celebration sessions, but ultimately what they are a co-created experience where I'm working with CEOs to sit down and say, hey, look, I'll help you facilitate this, but it's your content that's really going to sit and land with your people, right? My content doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a consultant and I'm third party. It's you and your message and your opportunity to celebrate your teams, no matter how big they are. I mean, 2 people, 3 people, it doesn't matter. And to say, thank you for being here. We've been through this roller coaster, whatever that may have included. And I want you to know I appreciate you. And also to sit down and use that as an opportunity to say exactly what you're kind of describing, Lisa, is let's all sit and pause and reflect on what our mission is. What are we doing here? Why are we doing this? What are the values? Do we need to change them? Do we need to tweak something? Is it an opportunity for somebody potentially who's new to the team? Have we heard from that person? Maybe they have some experience or worldview that they can add and voice so that we can continue to evolve what it feels like to work here at Pride Road, because it's an evolution. It changes all the time, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
And the other thing I was going to say about what'd you say? What?
I'm just writing notes, and I've just put my cardigan on because it's gone cold, and I've changed my lighting. And
it's all very important stuff. You got to be comfortable. Yeah. The other thing that I was going to mention is you mentioned the Kickstarter, and I'm not too. I thought you meant something different. In the States, a Kickstarter is like a crowdsourced fundraising website.
Oh, yes. No, ours is different. Ours was like a government funded program for 6 months where
Got it.
they supported a young person in industry, and it was just about them kind of getting their first jobs.
Yeah.
It was pretty fully funded for like 25 hours a week.
Wow.
For 6 months, so that was really good. And so what we did was like provided the training and the in the real life kind of work experience and experience of working in a in business.
Yeah.
So
Very cool.
it was really good, but it was it was quite exhausting, sort of like taking on that well, I was training basically for 6 months solid.
Yeah. I can imagine. I mean, anytime the government has their hands on anything, it's going to take extra time.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of hoops to jump through and all the things. Yeah.
All the things. You mentioned you had a download. What's that all about?
I do. I have a download, which is enlivenedstudios.com/people first. One word, people first. And we can stick that in the show notes or whatever. But Enlivened Studios, which is my website.
Enlivened Studios. Yep.
.com/people first.
Is that forward slash or backward slash?
Oh gosh, it's from upper right to lower left, whatever that is.
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat. I can put it in the chat.
People first. And so what's in your download?
I'm just writing this down so you have it there.
Thank you.
Sure. So it is 5 tips to inspire a people first culture.
Ooh.
And I wrote it for people like you, Lisa, who have small teams, because and I wrote this in the copy on the front page. You don't need to have a big budget or a big strategy to do this work. Sometimes it's just exercising. There you go. Yep. Sometimes it's just recognizing what skills you need for your what emotional intelligence skills are going to help you and buoy you to be the leader that you need to be. So they should come across hopefully as easy tips. And if your listeners are interested, that's how they get to it. And they just need to stick their email in and they'll get the download. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I will have a look at that. So take a few easy steps towards building a people first culture today. What is your company culture? What is a people first culture? How do you inspire your culture to be people first? That looks cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing.
You're very welcome. Yeah. And I'm on LinkedIn, Shannon Dean Hughes. My maiden name is in there. And I've got lots of content there about culture. And a lot of it's actually unique to architecture, because I'm really starting to zero in.
You've decided to work in the architecture sector.
It's funny. People ask that question to me a lot. The more I work with architecture, the more I see, and this may sound like a stretch, but stay with me. My background is advertising. And I worked in an advertising agency for a long time. And in an advertising agency, as you can imagine, it's very deadline driven. You are at the whim of clients, some very demanding and some very reasonable, depending. You're working with different types of folks, from creative folks who are creating the graphics and the taglines and the copy. And you're also, that's one hat that you wear, right? And the other hat that you wear is client support, customer service. And then the third hat of many, many other hats is working with your team and being a leader within your team, whether or not you have people that you manage. So that reality that I lived in for 20 years, at least based on my experience, and I could be wrong, I'm speaking to you. You are the one who lives and breathes this as an architect. It seems pretty resonant with folks in architecture practices. This idea that you are also at the whim of clients. You are also having to exercise the analytical brain and the creative brain almost in the same split second. And, depending on whether you are in a management position or even not, it just as a member of a team, you're also on a daily basis asked to communicate effectively with the people around you so that you can deliver on deadline. And so, I don't know, I just my world seems to really integrate with the realities of what I see in servicing some of these architecture firms. And I just am loving more and more, the more I peel back the onion and start to talk to people like you. There's been so many folks that I've just hopped on phones with to say, hey, I like your
how on earth did this come up? So, sort of Shannon Hughes of Bay Area in California. And sorry, we haven't talked about time zones. What time is it there?
Da, 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 da. It's 9:34 in the morning.
Wow. So
on Monday.
Just show me out your window, because are you next to a window?
Yeah.
Just turn your screen. Look.
It's daylight.
Look at me. Look.
Oh my gosh, I can even see it's so dark in your room that your light from your inside the room is reflecting on the outside on the outside window.
I'm sorry. Every single time I have a conversation with someone this day.
I know I've heard them on your podcast. It's awesome.
We live in a time warp.
I know we do. I know a couple of years ago, or maybe last year, who knows, time is so weird, but I was doing workshops and I was facilitating work for a company in Australia, and oh my goodness, did that blow my mind. It was like, it was 4:00 here, and it was 9 a.m. the next day for them. And, I'm about to take, I'm like nap time for me, and they're having their first cup of coffee.
Yeah. So it's the same. So it's the end of the day. I'm gonna, the dogs have been out for a walk, and after this call, dinner's going on.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I've done and it's been, it's Monday, so it's been a really full on day today, but good, really good. But it's light outside your house and it's dark outside.
Yeah. And you just said big day, good day. I mean, this is my paper calendar. This is my day. It's like back. So I'm about to start my big awesome day, and you just
and I've just finished my big awesome day. I think it must be. I came to the States about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and I lived in New York. And so, I used to have those conversations back home, and there would be delays on the phone, and it would be a hello, yes, and that's within living memory.
I know.
Just even Skype, that's 2 years ago. There were delays.
Yep. And now you've got WhatsApp that's like instantaneous and free, and what?
I know.
Facebook Messenger.
Two, 3 years after lockdown, and my mind is still being blown over.
You should interview some expert. You should do a Google search and find some expert, or ask your community to refer somebody to you who's like a psychologist and time or something. I don't know.
If anyone's listening, why? I don't know. Why do I get so, I don't know, excited?
Yeah. It's time travel. Modern day. Yeah.
I remember when This is going to sound so awful, but I remember when my grandparents did an around the world cruise trip, literally around the world, and I said, "Are you going to gain a day or lose a day when you cross the date line?" And my grandpa had no idea what I was talking about. It's like, you're talking nonsense. What you're talking about? I'm going to. How can you gain a day or lose a day? And
yeah.
and he came back.
They're like, oh my goodness.
His mind was blown.
I think where it really does me in is when I leave. Like we were in Ireland over the summer, and we left Ireland. I can't remember this. I don't remember how it even worked, but we basically left Ireland and arrived here in the States in San Francisco, like at the same time or something. I can't remember, but it's like, how did that even, And it was an 11-hour flight, and it's somehow it's only like 3 hours after we left. It's like,
you see, it's not just me. It's not just
Nope.
Dear. Well, it was lovely talking to you.
You too.
Yeah, and so we were just talking about how you found. How did you hear about Pride Road?
I mean, honest. Google. Actually, I think I found you by the search function in my app. So I have Apple Podcasts on my phone, and I did a search for architecture or architecture design, and you were there. There you were.
On which app were you using? What podcast?
The iPhone Apple app. Yes.
Ooh, there you go.
Yes.
So we come up. There you go.
Yep. And then what'd you say?
It's a world-renowned podcast.
That's right. Yeah. And then I listened to some of your content, and then I think I mentioned the first time we met that you had interviewed, oh gosh, what's the gentleman's name who's in partnership with Mark LePage?
Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And I was familiar with his work because, here's the thing about me. I am voracious in my wanting to learn and know people and understand. So I'm like, you just picture a string, and I'm like, pull the string, and I find people along the way. And one person led me to the next person who led me to you.
Oh, there you go.
So it's all part of it. But yes, ultimately, I think I did a search on the app, and that's how I found you. And then I listened to your content, and I saw some of the overlaps and people that we had known, or at least that we follow and read. And since then, you and I have shared some other resources, which is great.
Yes. And I have in fact been in touch with Mark LePage, and I have a meeting with him in January. So thank you very much.
Lovely. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. He's delightful.
It's international networking.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just for your listeners, grab that download and find me on LinkedIn, and we'll keep talking. And you and I too, Lisa. It's such a pleasure to talk to you today.
Okay. All right. Have a great day.
Enjoy your meal. Have a great dinner. Okay.
Thank you for joining me, Lisa Raynes, for Architecture in the Den. If you want to find out about franchising, check out our website, prideroadfranchise.co.uk. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review. And do get in touch through your favourite platform if you'd like to be a guest.